This video is for all of you out there who are trying to begin building your career and not quite sure how to go about it. My hope today is to share with you, give you some advice and guidance on what is the best next step for you as you build your career and get your foundation in place. So let's talk about that. For some of you who are watching this, you live in remote areas around the world. You don't have access to quality training. You can't take classes in person, whether it's because of the logistics, finances, COVID, all of the above, right? So for so many people, what do? They start out reading books, and that's wonderful. It's a wonderful place to start. You can't learn acting from a book. You can learn some concepts, some theories, and some ideas. You can get a sense of what things might be like with this discipline, that discipline. And it's a wonderful place to start. And you absolutely can pick up some tips. There's a book, I don't have it with me. There's a book, it's the only authorized book by Sandy on the Meisner technique. It was called Sanford Meisner on Acting. It was written by a guy named Dennis Longwell, and it's a picture of Sandy on the cover. I highly recommend it, and I highly recommend you read the foreword by Sanford Meisner, because he says in that, he goes, look, I've been asked many times to write a book on the Meisner technique, and if anyone's going to write a book on the Meisner technique, it would be me. And I tried. This is Sandy talking. I tried several times, and I finally said, not only can it be done, it shouldn't be done. Now, since then, there's several people who have written books about the Meisner technique. And again, they have value. They help. They do. They can also cause problems too. But I don't want to debate that. It's not really the point. But the point is, Sandy's book, the authorized biography, he's not trying to teach the Meisner technique in that book, although people have tried to use that book as a teaching syllabus. It's not. Dennis was a fly on the wall. He was an auditor in class. He was a beautiful writer who just wanted to capture what it was like to be in there. And he chronicled a lot of different exercises and things, but there's so much content that's missing. So. Since then, there's also, as I said, a proliferation of books on the Meisner technique, and by people that never studied with Sandy, as well as with people who did, who broke away from Sandy and created their own version. And again, it is what it is. But that's really my point. When you're reading things, try to get as close to the source as possible. That's all my point is. So as you're reading anything, I mean, Stanislavski, an actor prepares all these wonderful books from way back. They're a wonderful place to start. Hell, I read every one of them. But at some point, your brain just turns to mush reading books, right? So now what do you do? Well, maybe there's an actor coming through town. He or she is going to give a talk or a workshop. Definitely go. And they're going to talk about, hopefully, their background and their training. And you're going to start learning things. And when you go see anything, if you see anything at all that inspires you, whether it's live theater or a film, Google the actor. Find out what their training was. See if there starts to be a common thread in some of the work that you like. And you start getting a sense. And then you can try to keep your eye and radar out with those types of teachers and teachings who present that information. Sam Rockwell is a beautiful example of somebody who's Meisner trained, and Sam has said, I actually had the honor of taught his father for a period here in San Francisco. And Sam came to class one time. I didn't know who he was. He was very nice, shy and quiet, sat in the corner, very complimentary, very nice guy. But he'd already had this beautiful career going, and this is well before he just blew up even more. But Sam said of the training, he just said, he goes, prior to getting this level of training, I thought I was an actor, but after the Meisner technique, I felt like I became a ninja, like some elite Navy SEAL badass. And so let's talk about those tiers, right? Because next thing you can do is after hearing somebody give a talk or a teaching, you could take a workshop. Typically, maybe they're offering something, a 3-day workshop. Is it any good? You just do your research. You're going to have to kiss some frogs. Believe me, I've attended a lot of crappy workshops and intensives. I have. It's part of it. This is before Google and Yelp and social media, so it's much easier now to get unsolicited opinions on the quality of something like this. But it's part of it. It's part of it is just finding your teachers. And can you get something from a workshop, weekend workshop? Absolutely you can. One of the problems I've found with a lot of workshops and intensives is you get all excited and then they leave and it's like there's no, now what? You're left holding this bag of gold, but you really don't know how to unwrap it until they come back 6 months later or a year later or something like that. But now with online teachings, maybe they give a workshop. This is very popular now. They'll come to a community, give a workshop, and then they'll go home, and then you can study with them, which leads to another thing. Can you learn acting online? Well, you can Google your brains out. Jeez, my kid calls it, I know she didn't invent it, but YouTube you, man. My kid learned how to play the guitar in like 2 seconds by just Googling it and just practicing and boom, right? Well, the same thing with acting. There's so much incredible information out there, actors and their interviews and actors on acting, all these, they're talking about craft and their way and their process. It's invaluable. It's invaluable information. It's gold. But at some point, you've got to get up and do it. You've got to fly the plane, if you will. So that's going to require you getting into a class. And so now online, can you take acting classes online? I know people who are doing it. I have former students of mine doing it, teaching it. I have friends of mine who are acting teachers doing it. And my only advice with that is, if you want to try it, try it. Check it out. And if you feel like it has value, wonderful. If you get enough for what you pay, beautiful. It's on my website as well, but I personally, just me, I'm not disparaging anybody else out there that's trying to do this. Me personally, I'd never teach the Meisner technique online, nor do I think you can, in my opinion. Oh, you can introduce some elements and things. You absolutely can. You absolutely can introduce some elements, and you can do some basic parts of the technique. But it's like maybe the first session, but not the technique, not the way it's supposed to be presented, with a multitude of partners and of course all the elements that are required to introduce the evolution of the Meisner technique. Excuse me. And then of course just the experience of being in this room watching your other classmates grow and learn as well. Can you do that online? To a degree, but I think most everybody, at least my experience has been, is people are so zoomed out it's not even funny. It was a wonderful resource, but people are dying to get back into in-person responsibly and safely. But it goes beyond just a desire to do it because we're just going stir crazy. I honestly believe that it's really, at least for me, the only way to present these teachings. So now, I don't want to get into the weeds about this. I'm just trying to say, can you learn acting online? Sure, you can. Would I try to put my entire foundation in place online? Absolutely not. Would I augment some things? Of course. Can you learn some things? Of course. But at some point you need to get into a class. And when you can safely and responsibly, you got to get into one. You do. You got to get into one, and you've got to be. And now what? What's the criteria? Well, finding a quality teacher, somebody that truly knows what they're doing, and that's why I brought up this teaching so earlier. Is that the further away it gets from the source, the more diluted it gets. There's so many people out there teaching the Meisner technique, it's not even funny. And again, it's the telephone game. It just keeps getting diluted. So you want to get to the source. That's got to be obvious, as close as you can. And then, but that's not enough, because I've been seeing people close to the source who have tremendous ego. And Sandy, one of the most incredible things about Sanford Meisner was his lack of ego. You might have heard how tough he could be. I'll do a video on that, by the way, on what it was like to study with Sandy. But he didn't have any ego. It wasn't about him. He was tough. He had standards, but it wasn't about him. So sometimes people will charge a ton. They'll have this big reputation. I know of somebody in LA that I've heard about that after checking this person out, I'm like, oh my God. They're very successful. I mean, monetarily. And schools around the planet, satellite schools, etc., wildly successful. I'll leave it at that. But you want to find somebody with no ego that does know what they're talking about. And so there's an acting class, and there's certain classes, let's say for scene and script analysis, and there's certain classes for, you know, on camera or auditioning, and that's a lot like building the spaceship piecemeal at a time. That's what so many actors do. They are flying to the stars, and they build the spaceship as it's going, right? So they want to be an actor. They get headshots and resumes, and they start auditioning, and they get bad feedback. And they go, I need a workshop. So they take a workshop, an on-camera and auditioning class. Boom, boom. Okay, now back out there. Okay, and you can get by on natural ability. You can go so far on natural ability. You can. But at some point, that's it. Or you're just going to only play yourself over and over. You won't be able to enter the big leagues. You can play AA and make some, do some stuff. But if you want to compete at the highest level at some point, in my opinion, you need world-class training. And there's a big difference between an acting class and workshops and world-class training. Again, one more time, acting classes are wonderful, workshops are wonderful, intensives are wonderful. You can put the tiptoes of the shallow end of the pool, 6 weeks, 8 weeks class, get in, get out, learn some things, move on, patch that side of the spaceship, fly a little higher, okay, oop, got another hole here, patch that, oh, here we go, and build the rocket ship on the way to the stars. Okay. That's one way. And you just trust your gut. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what Sanford Meisner believed in, and what I do as well. This profession is so competitive, and you see, you get so many breaks and opportunities. You want to be ready for them. I personally, I don't know, anybody a doctor out there? Or, can you imagine just reading a book and taking a workshop and then going and trying to do stuff? Now, I know it's not brain surgery that we're doing, but it is a craft. It really is a skill set. And that's obvious when you look at some of the greats that have graced our screens and stages over the years. There is this, you really can become an actor. You really can get good at this. And so I had tremendous respect for how competitive this was, and so I wanted world-class training. I wanted a foundation in place that was rock solid before launching, before even setting foot out there with a birth announcement that I'm here, I'm ready to go. And so that's the difference between an acting class and world-class training. World-class training is going to take longer. It's going to come at a price. And I'm not talking monetarily per se. I'm talking about just in terms of an investment of time and energy. The Meisner technique is taught over a 2-year period. It's 6 3-month sessions, so a year and a half, but with breaks 2 years. And there's conservatories as well, right? That's a possibility for you. People, when I was studying with Sandy, people say, oh, do you have voice and movement? And I'd be like, no. And it's not because those things aren't important. Sandy would say, this is not the whole story. This is not. But holy hell, what a foundation. What a foundation that everything else just rests on. That's what I wanted. That's what I was able to get through Sandy, and that's what our students get. They leave here elite. They leave here not arrogant, not cocky, just, I say it on the first day of class, you go through this training, when you're done, you'll call yourself an actor, and it will truly mean something. And that's what they get. They get a foundation that is built on rock. Will they augment it now from there? Yes, but this thing is ready to launch. They are ready to go. Our students leave here ready to compete at the highest level the day they walk out this door. Have they hit a ceiling on their growth? Not even close. Not even close. They're masters of the beginning. That's what they are, right? They're just begun, but they're ready, especially compared to so many people who don't make this investment, who are trying to get by on natural ability and relationships and things like that. You know, we live in a very fast food society. Download it, get it now, boom. So world-class training isn't for everybody. And I'm not saying it's the only way at all or the right way. I'm not saying that either. I am saying, I'm very clear that it was for me. As far as a conservatory or colleges, let's talk briefly about that before we wrap this up. Conservatories, they too are a tremendous amount of investment, tend to be very expensive, and tend to be quite a commitment. And you just have to decide, why are you doing this? Do you want to learn all these other different things and aspects of the craft and behind the scenes as well, about theater and/or that's more at colleges, honestly. A college degree, a couple $100,000 later, and you know how to rig lights and do a bunch of other things and do set design and all these, and what a Fresnel light is, and as well as a bunch of different acting disciplines and theories, etc. And I've so many college graduates, theater majors who I've worked with over the years. They come out very. They're saturated with a lot. They're jack of all trades, they feel like, and master of none. They've got a lot, but don't know what to do with it. And so, but maybe that's the perfect thing that you want. So that's a possibility. Our students leave here as actors. And they are ready, and they know that. They're empowered. They know that they can go play in the big leagues. And that's what world-class training will give you. So I hope that evolution helps. For some of you, you're not in a position to do that yet. You got to set the table. You got to save some money. You're going to have to move. You're going to have to do some things to get to the workshop, to the class, to world-class training, or bypass it and just move to LA. Try that route. See how that goes for you. To thine own self be true. Good luck.